So, and very little effort has also been done to explore the land route of Uttar-Purb Bharat, through which different elements of Indian civilization and culture were exported to Southeast Asia. Like the Tra-Q inscription of Raja Prakash Dhara of Champa, it mentions the erection of an image of Valmiki in the southern part of present-day Vietnam. And this shows how Indians traveling from the land route of Uttar Purva Bharat, they carried the eastern version of this story to the countries of Indochina. And this is a hypothesis, I mean, which cannot be dismissed altogether. And the story of Ram, which has traveled through the land route of Uttar Purva Bharat, it was considerably transformed into its new home of adoption and returned to the states of Uttar Purva Bharat by the 18th century. With the Indo-Chinese population trekking down along the Brahmaputra Valley or the Patkai Hills, as we see. Now we come to the different local traditions of the Ramayana. There is ample evidence in the tradition and culture of Northeast Bharat to prove that the stories of Ram were very much predominant here. For example, a close look at the Mizo version of the Ramayana has disclosed that most of the Mizo local stories has the presence of the Ramayana. I'll explain this in a short while. There is another community called the Karbis, also known as the Arlengs of Assam. They mainly reside in Karbi Anglong and Dima Hasao districts of Assam. They have their own version of the Ramayana, which is popularly known as Sabin Alun or Chabin Alun. And in fact, the tradition of song, dance, and music in Karbi society, it started with this Sabin Alun. Yes, now, yeah, and it literally means Sabine songs, which has been composed by their god, who is revered as Hempu, or the supreme creator, who is akin to Brahma. So even in Assam, we have 14 different forms of Kamrupi or Ohomia Ramayana, and they are so far collected, and they are written in different periods by different writers. Madhav Kondoli was the old and the foremost writer who translated the Ramayana from the Sanskrit to old Kamrupi language in the 14th century. And it is one of the most important sources of ancient Assamese language and literature. And in Tripura too, like when we visit the hills and some of the deeply forested tracts of the Chittagong hills, the old people, they are often found reading the Ramayana and the Mahabharata both. So these epics, the stories of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, they have found themselves to be perennial sources of inspiration and an ocean of wisdom. And many proverbs, riddles, poems, songs, drama, dances, dialogues, etc., have been influenced by the Ramayana. And coming to Meghalaya, among the Khasis, the story of Ramayana is also known among the Khasis, and it used to be narrated by the elderly people while sitting around the kitchen. And it is also said that in Meghalaya, the names of Ram and Lakhan are common for twin brothers. And Durga and Ganga, Ganga is pronounced as Konga in the Khasi language. They are for twin sisters. So now I will briefly describe the different Ramayana traditions among the Mizos, as I said, and the Karbis as well, and the Khasis. Yes. So now coming to the Ramayana tradition among the Karbis are also known as the Arlengs. They inhabit both the hills and plains tracts, mainly in Assam, and they are mainly concentrated in the, for those of you who might not know, they are mainly concentrated in the hilly areas of Karbi Anglong, earlier known as Mikir Hills district of Assam. And the Karbis are also scattered in the plains of the same district, and as well as in the neighboring plains districts of Nagaon, Sibsagar, and Kamrup, and the hill district of North Kachar Hills. Some Karbis are also, they reside in the contiguous areas of Meghalaya and Nagaland. Many of the Karbis in the recent times, they have been the targets of the Christian missionaries, but many of them are, even today, they are strict adherents of the Vaishnavite Sanatana Parampara as preached by Srimanta Shankardev. So now, when we talk about the Ramayan tradition prevailing among the Karbis, we need to remember that it is only the Karbis among all the major Janajati communities of Assam who have their own version of the Ramayana story in their own language. And there is even a belief that is prevalent among the Karbis that they are the progeny of Valmiki, the author of Ramayana. And some of the Karbis also associate themselves with Sugriv. And the popular name, as I just said, by which the Ramayana is known among the Karbis of Assam is Sabin Alun. So now here, Sabin Alun, Loon in the Karbi language, it means a song. And Sabin Alun literally means Sabin's song. So Sabin is supposed to have originally been the composer, the singer. And the Sabin Alun, the Karbi Ramayana, it consists of more than hundreds of couplets that are sung in a repetitive tune in a slow tempo. And the complete rendering of the whole text of this of the Karbi Ramayana called Sabin Alun, it is said to take 2 or 3 nights of continuous singing. And it occupies a special place in the socio-cultural life of the Karbis. According to tradition, the performance of the Sabin Alun is almost as important as the text. The performance is done in a special atmosphere of sanctity and sobriety. There is also a widespread belief among the Karbis, which is prevalent, is that no singer or loon means a singer in the Karbi language, no loon should sing the whole of the Sabin Alun more than 3 times in his lifetime. And on completion of the singing for the last time, a special ritual, including the sacrifice of a cock, is to be performed. So after the 3 times is being completed. So there is a very special importance which is accorded to the Sabin Alun by the Karbis. And it can be attributed to the fact that apart from the fascinating and powerful story elements contained in it, the beautiful Ram Sita legend is ever prevalent here. Values like the triumph of virtue over evil, conjugal fidelity, etc., which is also very much to be seen in the Karbi version of the Ramayana. And so in a way, it retains the basic structure of the original Ramayana story by Valmiki, but at the same time, it also has many local peculiarities of its own in respect of the episodes and incidents, some minor details in terms of the sequence and emphasis, and as well as in respect of the socio-cultural milieu that is being portrayed. So what are these local peculiarities concerning the Sabin Alun? I would like to talk about briefly about 2 of them. So the birds of Ram Lakshman, so they are referred to as Ram Lakhan in Sabin Alun, and the popular Assamese pronunciation is Ram Lakhyan, and Sita Kunri or Ita Kunri in Sabin Alun. Okay, so Ita is the Karbi form of Sita. Hita is the Assamese pronunciation of Sita, and Ita is the Karbi form. So the births of Ram and Lakshman, they take place in accordance with a plan which is being drawn up in consultation with his consort with a view to kill Ravan. Ravan is known as Rabon in Sabin Alun, and other Rakshasas who had become inveterate sinners. And in the Sabin Alun, Ravan is portrayed to have 12 heads and not 10. And he is the eldest of several brothers, including Vibhishana, and as he's also the elder brother of Mahiraban or Rabon Mahi. It has been described in the Sabin Alun. And the name of Ram and Lakshman's father in the Sabin Alun is King Dharam Recho and not Dashrath. So this is a local flavor, another Dharam Recho for Dashrath. So these are some of the local variants in the Sabin Alun. Then about Hanuman. Hanuman is referred to as Haliman in the Sabin Alun. He also plays a leading part, similarly as he does in the original text of the Ramayana, as Ram and Lakshman's most trusted messenger and as their chief lieutenant. He uses his physical strength and even his magical formulae to win battles and overcome difficulties, and as well as to rescue Ram and Lakshmana from difficult situations. So he is known as Haliman. Hanuman is known as Haliman in the Karbi Ramayana. And the Ramayana story has been cast here in a recognizably Karbi mold in its own local dialect. And although the names of most of the principal characters and places involved have been retained with a local flavor, so many characters have also been given traditional Karbi names, and the locale of the narrative has also frequently been it has been made to conform to the local geography and topography of the region. Uh, and the characters have been made to follow a typically Karbi way of life and a Karbi aura that breathes through the actions and happenings. Like, for example, Sita's father, Janak Recho, or Bamanpo. He has been described as Janak Recho or Bamanpo in the Sabin Anun. He is described as a typically well-to-do Karbi farmer who spends most of his time in his Jhum farmland away from his homestead. And that is why he fails to recognize the grown-up Sita when she first carries food and apong. Apong is rice beer to him while he's working in the fields. Now, when I speak of rice beer, it should be made clear here that rice beer is very much a part of the Karbi way of life. In fact, not just of the Karbis, but also many other Janajati communities in Northeast, like the Missings, Mizos, even in Arunachal. So it is used in religious rituals. Rice beer is also used to entertain guests and also just for the sake of having a good time. In the Sabin Alun narrative, actually, there are many descriptions of rice beer being served to guests and in feasts. And another time honored Karbi custom and Assamese custom as well, that of offering betel nut to guests at home and while extending ceremonial invitations. These rituals and practices can actually be seen featuring at regular points, at regular intervals in the Sabin Alun narrative of the Ramayana that is prevalent among the Karbis. So a careful study, I think, of the different episodes and incidents as arranged in the Sabin Alun, it reveals that the way local and ethnic elements have been incorporated into this version of the Ramayana is beautiful. And popular motifs, some of them which are distinctly Karbi, they are scattered all over the body of this text. And this naturally heightens the Karbi flavor of the narrative. Like the birth of Sita has been described, like her birth takes place from an egg. Cowherd boys, they find an egg in the Jhum field and they hand it over to the king, her father Janak Recho or Bamanko, for identification. And Janak Recho keeps it in a basket for his consumption. And later Sita is born out of that egg. So these are some of the descriptions that have been given, but the main hero of this tale of Sabin Alun is Ram, and who is said to marry a girl born from an egg. And they have many offsprings who are spread all over the world, and Ram becomes unusually famous. And after his death, a section of his followers, they start worshipping him as the god. So this is about the Sabin Alun, although there is much more to say. Now I will come to the other versions of the Ramayana that are popular among the among other Janajati communities. Like first, I will talk about the Tiwas. Tiwas, or they are also known as the Lalungs. They share a close affinity with the Karbis, and they also have the Tiwas have deep cultural contacts with the Karbis. They also have their own version of the Ramayana story that is very much similar to the one incorporated in the Sabinalun. And like the Karbis, the Tiwas or the Lalungs, they have also attached special significance to the story, the narration of which is said to take place over several nights. And here also, the performance of special rituals like the sacrifice of a cock at the end of the narration, it is required to mark the end of the formal narrative performance. But we can say that in respect of both the ritualistic significance attached to it and as well as the details of the contents, the Tiwa version of the Ramayana has been greatly influenced by the Sabin Alun story of the Karbis. And just like among the Karbis, the Ramayana story among the Lalungs is also said to have is also recited in a verse form. But one of the most unfortunate aspects is that today there are very few persons left who can actually narrate this whole story in that format, in the verse format. And the story itself, the Tiwa Ramayana or the Lalung Ramayana, it contains most of the principal events of the Ramayana, but there are also some interesting local flavors, some I would call them Tiwa ethnic peculiarities. Like Sita requests Ram to catch the golden spotted deer so that she might fashion a tagla. Tagla is a typical Tiwa shirt for men, which is worn by Tiwa men during their annual harvest festivals and other celebrations. So Sita is requesting Ram to catch the golden spotted deer in order that she might fashion a tagla for Ram out of the skin of that deer. So these are some of the incidents. And again, while in search of Sita, Hanuman takes the form of a cat and enters Ravan's palace. The two brothers, Ravan and Vibhishana, they suspect nothing, and they are like, the cat is very beautiful, and they are attracted by the beauty of this animal, and they offer him food. And the cat helps himself, he eats the food, and then he quietly slips away after surveying the residence of Ravan. So these are some of the stories that are narrated in the Tiwa Ramayana. Then there is another community called the Khamtis. The Khamtis also have their own version of the Ramayana. They are largely Buddhists, and they are spread over in the Lakhimpur district of Upper Assam, and as well as the Lohit district of Arunachal Pradesh. In religious matters, the Khamtis are akin to the Buddhists, and their links with the Burmese Buddhist centers are still very strong. The Khamti Ramayana is known in the Thai Khamti language as the Chao Alang Lamang. It means the story of Ram's incarnation, Chao Alang Lamang. Or it is also known as Lik Chao Lamang. Lik Chao Lamang means the Ramayana book. So Chao Alang Lamang is the name that is popular among the Khamtis of Lakhimpur district of Assam. And Lik Chao Lamang, this is the name for the Ramayana that is popular among those Khamtis who are residing in the Lohit district of Arunachal Pradesh. They have a written version of this Ramayana, and the manuscript of this is still preserved in the Dikrong Barkhamti Buddhist Vihara of Narayanpur, of a place called Narayanpur in Lakhimpur district of Upper Assam. The Ram of the Khamti Ramayana, he is a bodhisattva. He is depicted as a bodhisattva who manifests himself in that form to punish and subdue the sinful, the arrogant Ravan. And it also reflects some of the local Khamti peculiarities, including the sounds of the names of the characters and the places. There is one description like how Ram and Sita meet in the Khamti Ramayana. So it is said that Ram and Sita, they meet by chance before their marriage, and they fall in love with each other. And Ram sends letters of love to Sita, with the help of arrows that are shot from his bow. And Sita also replies to him. And on one occasion, Ram's letter falls into the hands of Janak, Sita's father, who discovers the love affair, and the marriage of the couple is arranged after that. And Sita is described as the incarnation of Kingi Devi. So Kingi Devi is a goddess of worshipped, who is worshipped by the Khamtis, and is believed to be the consort of one of the bodhisattvas. And so Sita is the incarnation of Kingi Devi, who performs penance to have Ram as her husband. And when Ravan tries to ravish her, she throws herself on a burning pyre. She is reborn, and then she is thrown into the sea in an iron casket. And this iron casket drifts along to Mithila, where she is found and adopted by Janak. So these are some of the plots that are there in the Khamti Ramayana. Now, the Ramayan tradition in Mizoram, the Mizo Ramayana story is known as Khena le Ramate Unau Thauntu. So the story of Khena and Rama, Khena le Ramate Unau Thauntu. And it is a popular tale in Mizoram. And the principal characters of this tale are Ram, Khena. Khena is Lakshman, Sita, Hanuman, who is known as Haulauman, then Jambuvan. Jambuvan is known as Vaunumana, and Lusariha. So the Lusariha is depicted as the man having 7 heads, and he is the Ravan in the Mizo version of the Ramayana. So he doesn't have 10 heads. Lusariha or Ravan in the Mizo version of the Ramayana, he is depicted to have 7 heads. And most of the main episodes of the original Ramayana story, they are there in this Mizo tale, like Ram's marriage to Sita, the appearance of the golden deer, and Ram's pursuit of the deer, Sita's abduction, Ram and Khena is Lakshman, Ram and Khena search for Sita, their befriending of Haulauman or Hanuman, and how Hanuman saved them from all problems and difficulties. And so all these incidents, they appear in the Mizo version of the Ramayana, and including the burning of Lusariha city, Lusariha, that is Ravan. This also figures in the Mizo Ramayana. Ram Khena's encounter with Lusariha, Lusariha's death at Ram's hand, his advice to Ram before his death, the rescue of Sita and her subsequent exile on suspicion of the loss of chastity, the encounter between Ram and his twin sons, and so on. These all feature in the Mizo Ramayana. And even the Mahanirvan episode appears. The character is Lusariha's priest, who is called Lupi Rabon. And the beginning as well as the sequence of the events are different. They have a local flavor. And as the narrative progresses, many different elements come in with heavy doses of Mizo local motifs. Like one of the most interesting aspects of the Mizo Ramayana is that the male characters, they actually use or threaten to use the gun at small instances whenever they are provoked. So the gun is there. It's very much there. And now coming to Manipur, Ramkatha is an integral part of the culture of the Manipur Valley even today. The worship of Ram in Manipur, it is believed to have been patronized by Raja Garib Niwaz, who is credited with the building of the Ramji and Hanumanji Mahabali Mandirs in Manipur under the influence of the Ramanandi order of Vaishnav Parampara. And Manipur later came completely under the influence of the Chaitanya variant of Vaishnavism, which was centered around the Radha Krishna cult. And coming to Ramkatha or Ramayana in Manipur, Ramayana is popularly known as Ramkatha in Manipur. It forms a most popular theme of a number of highly influential traditional mass media like the Wari Liba. Wari Liba is the traditional form of storytelling among the Vishnupuriya Manipuris. Then Pena Sakpa, Pena Sakpa he's a ballad singer who accompanies himself on a one-stringed musical instrument called the pena. Then Khongjong Parba. Khongjong Parba is a narrative singing to the accompaniment of the drum called dholak. Then lyric Kiba Haiba, which is traditional singing of religious texts with different interpretations, and Jatra, which is a folk theater form of Manipur. So in all these different local forms of traditional mass media, the story of the Ramayana or Ramkatha is one of the popular themes. And respect and reverence for Ram as Bhagwan has percolated to the local level in Manipur in such a manner that in some places, like there is a village in the Bishenpur area of Manipur, Ram is worshipped as one of the Umang Lais. Now, Umang Lais means one of the primary deities. In Manipuri, Umang Lai means one of the primary deities. So Ram, in this village, in this particular village in Bishenpur area, Ram is worshipped as one of the Umang Lais with offerings of fruits, vegetables, and all of that. And on the occasion of the Lai Haroba festival of Manipur, Maibas and Maibis, who are traditional priests and priestesses of Manipur, they are known as Maibas and Maibis, they chant this invocation, Ram Krishna Narayan, Hari He Narayan. So Ram Krishna Narayan, Hari He Narayan. So this is like chanted for several times at a stretch by the crowd. So these all prove that the Ramayana is very much a living legend in Uttarpur Bharat, and those who say that Uttarpur Bharat was completely cut off from the rest of the country and Ram was born in North India, so how is he connected to Uttarpur Bharat? No, this is it's a myopic view actually.
Yes.
It's a completely one-sided narrative.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.